It happened. It happened. And I'm sorry I can't forgive you. I really am. I really am.
Kohlberger, do you understand the charge in count 1? Or
Yes.
do you understand the maximum penalty?
Yes.
Do you understand the charge in count 2, murder in the first degree?
Yes.
Do you understand the maximum penalty?
Yes.
Innocent until. How y'all doing, man? It is currently Friday. I think today might be like June the 2nd or something. I don't know. I'm not a keeper of dates. Look at my car. I guess I'm going to tell you guys now that I'm actually headed to Palm Beach, Florida, to handle some business, man. And I am like, I'm getting notifications. Y'all blowing my head up with this last video I did, man. I actually didn't like the video much because I make a certain type of content. My favorite type of content to make is not what I'm making right now or the last video. I like to make the type of content where I bring other stories in, true crime stories, and victims and their loved ones in to tell the story about what's happening now, because a lot of people seem to think that there are certain impossibilities in these cases. I'm going to tell you one. A lot of people are ruling the roommates out because they're saying, hey, number one, they're not arrested, and number two, they've been cleared. I just kindly remind people, man, that there were men in this case right here that were cleared. From the very beginning, they were cleared, and that didn't stop the masses from still wanting those guys arrested, from still thinking that they were absolutely involved or implicitly guilty. But for some reason, clear works here. I'm going to remind you guys of a case that should be, if you're a true crime fan, most of us are aware of this case, the Delphi case. Richard Allen, one of the suspects that they have in custody right now, they're claiming they have, here we go again, a mountain of evidence against this guy. It's another case where I'm just looking at it like, hey man, a lot of this is just too convenient, man. A high profile case, you have no suspect, and then out of the blue, suddenly you not only have a suspect, the suspect has all of this evidence tying him to the case that nobody in their right mind you would think would have held on to. But anyway, Richard Allen was there from the beginning. He was interrogated by the police, I think multiple times. He told them that he was on the bridge, but it took 5 years to arrest him. So I just think y'all are giving way more credibility to this cleared narrative as it pertains to the roommates than it deserves. If they're not involved, man, I'm talking too fast as usual. I apologize. What I was saying is that if they are not involved, then they are two of the most unlucky, uninvolved people I have ever seen in a true crime case, because all of the evidence point to, if not their absolute guilt, their definite involvement in these crimes. I don't see how anybody's still arguing against it. I don't say this to offend anybody, because I know people are on different sides of the coin, and y'all are teaching me how to approach content. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I've been doing this for 6 years. I'm just a very direct person. I try to be respectfully direct, but I'm direct. That's kind of the only way I know how to be. And so I'm just, in my mind, it's hard to click that everybody isn't direct. You can't be direct with everybody. Why are you giving me drive alert warnings? I'm sorry, guys. I got to keep the GPS on and things on so I don't, get lost or wreck anything. So you might hear some of that in the background. But it's just hard for me it doesn't click that you can't be direct and upfront with everybody, especially if you're being respectful. But you can't. Some people you got to whitewash, you got to beat around the bush, you got to sugarcoat things for. So there has to be a mixture and there has to be a balance in my content. I can't just come out hammering. Like, I prefer to communicate, and I prefer people to communicate with me. I don't like to waste a lot of time, man. But anyway, I know we fall on different sides of this coin in this case. Some of you are absolutely convinced that Bryan is guilty, right? And it seems to be the majority. That's why I wanted to make this video. Some of you are absolutely convinced that he isn't guilty. I'm going to tell you where I stand if you haven't watched my previous videos. I just don't know, man. I don't know. I don't necessarily trust cops just because they say something happened or just because they arrested someone. I want to show y'all something real quick, if you don't mind. Just a few moments.
Let's see your hands.
He doesn't have a weapon, I promise.
Get out. Get out. Step out. Step out. Step out. Face that way. Yo, I thought it was fucking 20-something at me,
No,
dude.
hell no. I wouldn't.
What the fuck are you running for?
You left to a fucking cop because you fools. I see how you fools died.
The officers chased Cervantes, and as they approached the victim's open front door, they saw Cervantes standing just inside the doorway. One of the officers then illuminated the inside of the apartment with his flashlight and saw Cervantes taking what he believed was a shooting stance.
I don't necessarily trust cops just because they say something happened or just because they arrested someone. You're going to hear me refer to my baby Marcelina a lot. You're going to hear me say, do you know baby M? Do you know Marcelina? You're going to see her pictures in different videos. I may put it here. Marcelina was, I'm going to say it, murdered by her mom 20 years ago in Florida. 20 years later, they arrested her in California. You have to go watch my other videos to see how that situation played out. But her mom literally called the police and told them not only that her baby was dead, baby M was dead, but what happened. She told them what happened, and they still, the medical examiner said the death was a homicide. The police found all type of foul play at the scene, and they suspected foul play, but they still let the mother walk free for 20 years, man. And there are a lot of cases out there like that. So I just want to remind you guys, man, don't get caught up in your biases. No matter what side of the coin you fall on, if you're here for true and honest justice, you have to be conscious of your bias. You have to be conscious that you have the capability of being biased, and then you have to do your best to set those biases aside, because there's a lot going on, you know, in all of these cases, not just the Idaho 4. Another segue, guys. My Idaho 4 videos are the most popular. Thank you guys for watching my videos, for coming to my channel, whether you subscribe, whether you don't like them, whatever. Thank you for visiting, man. I don't expect any of it. I'm just trying to do what God put on my heart to do and let him do the rest. But I just want to assure you guys, I'm not here to cover only the Idaho 4 cases. I have a story right now, 3 of them actually. I'll tell you. One guy was murdered in a Florida Walmart, right? He was murdered because a couple got into an altercation, and he intervened. He intervened to stop the guy. It was a male and a female. He intervened to stop the guy, and he ended up getting shot and killed. I have that video. I have a story about a young 12-year-old girl who stabbed her 9-year-old brother to death. 3 times she stabbed him. He was asleep. She's in a mental institution now. And then I have several other videos, man, because I always want to talk about these things. And I just want to remind us of the humanity of all of these situations, because it's so easy to get caught up in the entertainment, the suspense, the drama aspect of them. And you forget that these are very real humans that we're dealing with. And some of us, we're self-righteous and we're high-minded, so we think, hey, we would never be in these situations. Our children would never be in these situations. And what parent, right? What sound-minded, regular, average lay woman or lay man thinks I'm gonna go out here and murder someone, or my children are gonna go out here and murder someone? Like, who really, the average person who ends up in these situations isn't thinking about that? I mean, even the grotesque ones where you hear men and women and children kill people in a fit of rage. Most of them weren't planning their entire life, or even woke up that day thinking, yo, I'm gonna kill somebody today. These things happen in the heat of the moment, and they can happen to anybody. I get it. You may be one of those people thinking, hey man, this can't happen to me. Trust me, it can happen to anybody. Most of us will never be serial killers. Most of us will never plan to murder anyone. But just being in a situation where you have murdered someone, or you're charged with murder, whether you're innocent or guilty, trust me, man, don't be so self-righteous that you think it can't happen to you or someone in your circle. Most of the people who've been in these situations probably at one time thought that it couldn't happen to them, right? So again, I told someone on, I can't remember, Twitter or YouTube, man, I just have to be honest. When it comes down to this Idaho 4 case, there's no way in the world that you could convince me to send Bryan to the death chamber, you know, to be shot to death, murdered to death, what do they call that, the firing squad, or even send him to prison for any amount of time based on the evidence that they've, you know what I mean, shown us up until now. Now, if you watch my last video, 1122 King Road, what is the house saying to us, you will hear me say, I'm almost positive, man, I want to say 100% positive and certain, that the prosecutors, they have evidence they haven't shown us. I'm a little, I want to say, between concern and questioning why Bryan's attorneys aren't saying anything, right? And I'm going to tell you why I say that. I understand that there's a gag order in place. I am 100% aware of that. Duh, I'm following the case like you guys are, respectfully, right? But that means you can't say certain things. It doesn't mean you can't say anything. Now, once again, if you're following this case with a pure heart, you're aware that it's a one-sided gag order, right? Because one side is definitely saying a lot, even if they're doing it through mediums, you know what I mean, and they're using other sources, third-party sources to say it. They're definitely saying a lot, and they're saying it to make us feel a certain way about this case and the defendant ending. Another reason I wanted to make this video, and I smile saying this, once again, not because I'm on Bryan's side, but because I'm on the side of true justice. I am every day more and more proud of the true crime community at how many people are looking at this case and saying, no, something just isn't what you guys are telling us it is. It just can't be possible. Man, I am so proud because at the end of the day, we need real justice, man. We don't need to be having more and more cases of men and women going to prison for crime they didn't do to get out 5, 10, 15, 20 years later. This is tearing families apart. Can you imagine what that is doing to families? We're only thinking about, hey, man, especially if it's a guy, he's going to prison. Okay, he got out. He's out now. No. That affects generations. There's so much that is missed. There's so much that is not given because that man, and even women and children that happens to, they're not there. Families need their family members, and if they haven't committed crimes, they do not need to be in anybody's jail cells or prison. That's just the bottom line, and that needs to be, that is in the justice system, that is as much a priority as getting the right person. It's just in the mind of the true crime fans and participants. We don't think about that as much. We don't think about these people who go to prison and are sitting in prison literally right now. Some of them died. I tell a story about at least a minimum of 8 men who were executed in our capital punishment system only to be totally cleared after they were dead. You can't do anything for those men. There are men and women in prison right now who haven't done one single crime. But they were out, they were arrested, the PCAs were filed, they went through a trial, they were convicted, and they're sitting in prison right now absolutely guilty. Obviously, I meant to say absolutely innocent. It shouldn't be so, man. On the front end of these cases, man, a top priority for all of us should be making sure that we are doing our best to encourage that the right people are being incarcerated and arrested for these crimes, right? So when I see more and more people coming out saying, just logically speaking, most of us don't have any legal experience. Most of us aren't attorneys or paralegals or law enforcement officers in any capacity. But just logically speaking, a lot of what you guys are telling us isn't making sense. Therefore, the question of my video. Based on what we know now, not what the prosecutorial side and the defense isn't showing us as part of their strategies, I'm still wondering if Bryan's defense attorneys need to be saying more, because the case starts to be tried in the eyes of the jury well before it ever gets to a courtroom. But based on what we know now, will Bryan be convicted? I'm going to give you my answer. I'm going to ask the question one more time so we're clear what I'm talking about here and what I'm responding to. Aside from what both sides, Bryan's defense side and the prosecutorial side, have not revealed as part of their strategies, they're legally allowed to keep these things from us. Also, another segue, some things that they keep from us, it's illegal for them to keep from us, but they still do. It's illegal for them to keep from each other, but they still do, right? And those things are found out later. I think you guys are talking about some of that is going on in the Lori Vallow case right now. I can't, affirm any of that because I didn't watch that trial. But aside from all of those things, based on what we know now, will Bryan be convicted? I'm going to tell you, if he is, there's no way in hell I would believe it. How? 2 reasons. They literally haven't shown us anywhere near enough to make us think this man committed this crime or had anything to do with it. The other reason, and this is where my heart is warmed at, there are so many people, more and more it seems, coming out saying something is off with this case. Now, when I look into these groups, whether you be on a Reddit thread, whether you be on Twitter, whether you be on Facebook, YouTube, wherever you're at, I get discouraged, man. I'm going to be honest with you. I tell you guys I'm a logical thinker. Well, I give myself credit for that. I might be being a little high-minded. So I think through things with more logic than anything else where I don't have factual information. And I'm seeing just all of these people. I made a joke today on Facebook. I said, hey, man, right now today, Ashley should be Banfield and Coffee After Dark are on News Demon Nation revealing breaking news. And the breaking news that Bryan, enemy of real justice, is live on the scene to reveal is that their sources are telling them BRYAN KOHBERGER is still alive. And that proves that he is guilty of this crime. That's the kind of stuff that you see online. One lady said she is appalled that Bryan gets to watch TV in jail. why would you be appalled that this man gets to watch TV in jail? Do you not know that in some jails they have televisions? Has this man been factually convicted of anything? Why are so many people already wanting him punished like he's been factually convicted of anything? When, damn it, the evidence we got that they're alleging is against him doesn't even make us think, not fair-minded and honest-minded people, that he's done anything wrong in this situation. But me, myself, let me speak for myself after I drink this water. I would go online and I would see so many people eating up the News Demon Nation gossip, the Nancy Great disgrace gossip. And I would be like, how in the world, I just posted this as a matter of fact. One of News Nation's defense correspondents just brought this up. How can he get a fair trial? How, when in the minds of the public, he's already been convicted of something with the most minute amount of circumstantial evidence? How can he ever get a fair trial? And the answer to that question to me is in you guys, man. It is in you guys, man. Y'all are coming out of the woodwork, and maybe I'm saying you're coming out of the woodwork because I didn't know you were there, but you were there all along, and you're saying that this just doesn't add up. So just like you're going to get those people that say, hey, man, because Panera Bread has a P in it, that proves that BRYAN KOHBERGER killed the 4 victims in the Idaho 4 case. You literally have people out there thinking like that. They want this man's head chopped off somewhere in a Russian secret cave simply because the Panera Bread has a P in it. But you also have people like you guys. Now, that means to me, I still think the majority of people are, and I say this very kindly and respectfully, I still think the majority of people are puppets. They don't try to do any real research. They don't try to do any real delving into these cases. They turn to the nearest Dateline episode and say because Dateline said something, you know, this makes it true. How many rumors have we had in this case, guys? So many that you can't keep up with, right? How many rumors have you heard in all of the true crime cases that you kept up with over the years? So many you can't keep up with them, right? A lot of people out there, they need nothing more than rumors, right? But the beautiful thing about it, even though I think the jury will be majority made up of those type of people, there will be some people like you on it. And I think in future cases, these are the things that we need to keep in mind, man. If we don't have facts that these people are guilty, we need to tread very lightly, man. Now, I'm not saying that, like, you gotta, every case doesn't need us to have someone on camera stabbing or shooting someone. Like, 2 and 2 does equal 4. But if we don't have a reasonable 2 + 2 equaling 4, we need to tread very lightly. I'm gonna say this one more time and probably ask the question one more time and get out of here. If for no other reason than innocent people don't need to be sitting in anyone's jail cells or prisons for crimes they didn't do. Not for 1 second, much less weeks, months, and years, right? And 2, a lot of these cases where the wrong people have been convicted, incarcerated, arrested, etc., the real criminals are still walking the streets, which makes our communities no safer. And in some of those cases, it is literally and factually true that those real criminals have gone on to commit more violent crimes, victimize more innocent people, while an innocent person sat in prison. So that scenario of us just rushing to judgment, it just doesn't work either way, man. There are too many questions in a lot of these cases, specifically the Idaho 4 case. How can one man do this alone? Where's the blood trail that absolutely should have been outside of the house? What's up with, I keep hearing about this ladder that was out at one of the windows. Like, what's going on? Where's the video camera of whoever did this, since y'all are alleging BRYAN did this, him or his vehicle entering the house, entering and leaving the house in the neighborhood, right? All of these questions we have. What's up with saying that you only have a grid? Is this true? When they seen, air quotes, seen him in the car, that is only a grainy video footage that looks like somebody that could look like him? Are we serious right now? Is this what we're convicting people of quadruple murders on? So I'm gonna end with the question that I made this video to ask. Trust me, guys. I couldn't prove this if my life depended on it. I'm just speculating based on my experience in true crime as a fan. Both the prosecution and the defense have evidence they haven't shown us and revealed to us lately, and probably haven't shown and revealed to each other. Both sides do. That's just how these things usually work, right? But based on what we know now, will BRYAN KOHBERGER be convicted of these murders? Innocent until, man. Y'all remember to be gracious. Y'all remember to be compassionate. Y'all remember to be loving. And if you catch me not doing that, remind my ass too, because that's a universal priority. I'm out.
And ran back inside. The officers chased Cervantes, and as they approached the victim's open front door, they saw Cervantes standing just inside.
I thought it was fucking 20 something, dude. your hands.
He doesn't have a weapon, I promise.
And ran back inside the victim's apartment. The officers chased Cervantes, and as they approached the victim's open front door, they saw Cervantes standing just inside the doorway. One of the officers then illuminated the inside of the apartment with his flashlight and saw Cervantes taking what he believed was a shooting stance. Which resulted in an officer-involved shooting. Cervantes was not struck by gunfire and was taken into custody with
Glenn Ford here. Spent nearly 30 years on death row for a crime he didn't commit. According to the Innocence Project in New Orleans, Ford spent 29 years, 3 months and 5 days of his life in solitary confinement on death row. An innocent man, years behind bars, spending every waking moment wondering if this would be the week he dies. Well, last year, Ford was exonerated. He had been the longest-serving death row inmate in the U.S. at the time of his release. And just yesterday, Glenn Ford died. He only tasted freedom for a few months after losing his entire adult life. The prosecutor who helped put Ford behind bars would come to regret his role in Ford's wrongful conviction. He has since apologized to Ford, both in an open letter and then during an emotional meeting in person. ABC News captured that encounter.
Mr. Ford.
Marty, how you doing?
How are you?
Doing all right.
And I've thought about this for a long, long time. I want you to know that I am very sorry. And I wish it's a stain on me that will be with me until I go to my grave. And I wasn't a very good person at all. So I apologize for that.
Right, but then it still cost me 31 years of my life and death, nothing at the end but death, because it gave me from 6 to 8 months to live.
I don't necessarily trust cops just because they say something happened or just because they arrested someone.
Because it gave me from 6 to 8 months to live.